Here's a word I'm pretty sure none of us like, but know we need. Discipline. Who thinks to themselves, you know what, I'm looking forward to a good bit of discipline? If that's you, we probably need to have a completely different conversation. The thing about discipline is we often don't like it to start with, but it quickly becomes something we couldn't imagine living without. Here's a simple example. Years ago, I used to have sugar in my tea. I decided it'd be a good idea to cut down the amount of sugar I consumed, especially as my wife Louise would drink gallons of the stuff. So if I kept up with her tea consumption, it was like drinking multiple Red Bulls a day. So one day I just stopped. Now, to start with, I didn't like the taste of the tea, so I'd have a few biscuits with it. Now, I was probably missing the point a bit there. But it didn't take long before I got used to it, and not long after that, I preferred the taste of tea without sugar. Now, I couldn't drink a cup if it had sugar in. Now, that's a trivial example, but what is true about that is also true about the bigger aspects of our life. We all know we need discipline to embrace healthy habits, to have self-control. We know we need discipline to do the things we should do rather than the things we want to. When it comes to discipline, our motive or our attitude is unrelated to the outcome. Now, I can choose to eat a salad instead of a cheeseburger every day for lunch. It doesn't matter what my motive is or what my attitude is towards it. I could be as grumpy as possible as I tuck into that lettuce, but I still benefit from the salad. But what tends to happen is slowly, over time, this ought becomes a want. And something I'm having to endure actually becomes something I enjoy. Now, this message is the third in a series called Faithful. If you've missed the previous ones, you can catch up on our YouTube channel. We're exploring how we can fuel our faith in a world living on empty. In the first message, we explored, the one thing that's at the heart of the Christian faith. It's an invitation from Jesus to follow him. A Christian is simply a Jesus follower, someone who seeks to follow Jesus where he is leading, rather than expecting Jesus to follow them wherever it is that they want to go. It's a simple invitation, but it's really challenging to live out. If you're a Jesus follower, are you asking him where it is that he wants you to follow him today and every day? Now, just give that a go. Ask that question and act on the result. Actively and intentionally follow Jesus and see what happens. We're exploring 3 key ways in which we can actively and obediently follow Jesus in a way that results in a full faith and a full life. Message 2 looked at the first of these, and it's something we call intentional community. Staying connected to community of faith grows our faith. And similarly, people lose faith when they lose contact with people of faith. If we want to follow Jesus in a way that grows our faith, we need to connect with others on this journey. We need to be intentional about it. Now, this second area is something we call private disciplines. We know that the focus of faith is an invitation from Jesus where he says to each of us, follow me. That's a personal invitation to each of us. And it shows us that faith is something that each of us has to take personal responsibility for. It's our faith. When Jesus invites you to follow him, he isn't inviting you to join a religion. He's inviting you to a relationship. He's inviting you to be part of his tribe, to be part of what he's doing in the world to bring hope and healing, to be part of his plans and purposes. A faithful life is a life that's focused on following Jesus where he leads. It's a life that has made faith a priority. And that's where discipline comes in. Sometimes we need to do stuff we know we should, even when we don't want to. Now, let me share with you 2 private disciplines that I think are crucial for you if you want to faithfully follow Jesus. Now, there are more, but these 2 are a great place to start. Firstly, let's take a look at something Jesus did. Mark records this for us in the first chapter of his gospel. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Now, Jesus, who was in very nature God, got up early and prayed to God. Now, he wasn't talking to himself, he was talking to his heavenly Father. He did this because he needed to. And throughout the Gospels, we see that Jesus did this time and time again. He withdraws to a solitary place to spend time with his Father. Now, a solitary place is a private place. It's just him and God. Why do you think Jesus got up early to do this? Is it because God is an early riser? Or does God only meet with us before sunrise? Well, no. Let's read on. Simon and his companions went to look for him, and when they found him, they exclaimed, "Everyone is looking for you." Now, Simon and the others in the house where Jesus was staying woke up and they discovered that Jesus had gone. This is right at the start of Jesus' ministry. They've just found the Messiah, and now they've lost him. His popularity is spreading fast, and people want to speak to him, to be near him. Simon finds Jesus and basically says, "What are you doing here? There's lots to do. Everyone is looking for you." I think this is the reason Jesus got up early to pray. It was because he was so busy, but he still prioritized spending time with his Father. Now, praying early in the morning isn't more spiritual than doing it at lunchtime or later in the day. The important thing is that we do it. For many of us, this is a discipline because there's so many other things competing for our time. It's a discipline to get up and spend time with God. It's a discipline to not do something else, but to sit in his presence. About a year ago, I realised that my devotional time with God was becoming a bit stale. I'd read the Bible, I would pray, but I was struggling to connect with God. I was doing lots of the right things, but I was still missing that vital connection. And a friend challenged me to stop, to start doing nothing, to spend time in silence. So I did. Twice a day, I would sit down in silence for 15 minutes at a time, not doing anything else. It was hard work. After the first session, I thought to myself, what a complete waste of time. Surely there's something better I could be doing, something more productive. But over time, it became something that I valued. And I began to see the impact on other parts of my life, and others did too. I felt more connected to God, and I sensed his presence with me, and I experienced those prods from him more and more. Not necessarily whilst I was sitting in silence, but throughout the day. Now, I've noticed a strange coincidence. When I spend time with God, I feel closer to him. I see him at work and I hear his voice speaking into my soul. And when I don't spend time with him, I don't feel him. I don't see him at work and I don't hear him. I wonder why that is. This discipline of silence started out as an ought, something I should do, something I enjoyed. But it became something that I want to do, something I enjoy. You don't have to do what I do, but if you want to follow Jesus, you need to find a way to spend time with him whenever that works for you. It doesn't have to be first thing, and I'd encourage you to do it a couple of times a day. Perhaps when you wake and before you go to sleep. Bookend your day with some focused time with God. Perhaps you've tried this, but you're not totally sure what to do, so you give up. Well, let me give you a really simple outline for spending devotional time with God. Silence, scripture, and pray. Find a comfortable spot, remove any distractions, and sit for a few minutes in silence. And as you do, you might want to have a simple sentence or verse from the Bible that runs through your mind. I tend to use, "Be still and know that I'm God." Then read a couple of verses from the Bible. You could use a devotional guide from YouVersion, or slowly make your way through a book in the Bible. Read it, and as you do, allow yourself to become aware of what it's saying and what it's asking of you. What's the so what? Then pray. Pray about what you've read. Pray about your day. Bring God into the mix. Become aware of the potential hazards that you face and ask God for wisdom and courage and grace and whatever it is that you need. And pray for the things that you're passionate about. Pray for the people around you. I like to keep a prayer list in the back of my journal to help me remember the stuff that I want to pray about. And that's it. Do that each day or at least a couple of days a week. Head over to fbcnext.com and click on the Next Steps page for some more ideas and resources to help you with this. So that's one important way in which we can embrace private disciplines. The next one is a little bit more controversial. It's giving. Now, this is a delicate subject to talk about, and we do it carefully because we don't want people to think that we're just interested in their money. God isn't interested in your money. He doesn't need it. But he does recognise that most of us are interested in our money, and our attitude towards it has the power to enable our faith to flourish or flounder. The thing about giving is that it isn't actually about money. It's about confidence and where our confidence is placed. Let's take a look at something Jesus said about this. Now, Matthew's recorded these words for us. Jesus is speaking to people in real need, people who are living on the edge of starvation, people who may not know where their next meal is coming from. And he says these words, which seems a little bit insensitive. So do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? Now, if we worry about these things, it's because we don't know what to eat, or to drink, or to wear, because we have so many options. That wasn't the case back then. But that doesn't mean that we don't worry about money or stuff. We're looking at unis for our daughter Leah at the moment. Part of me thinks, how are we going to be able to support her through uni without building up huge debt for her and for us? Jesus says to us, don't worry about that. This is why it's a trust thing. This is why it's a faith thing. Jesus continues, your heavenly Father knows that you need them. Now, in this original context, God knows that they need food and clothes. In our context, he knows what we need. The question is, are we willing to trust him? Now, am I willing to trust him with my daughter's future? Where is your confidence? In your bank balance or in your God? Jesus hasn't finished. He goes on to say, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. See, Jesus is inviting us to put our trust, our faith, our confidence in him, nowhere else. And the rubber really hits the road with giving, because it requires us to let go of what we are most inclined to put our confidence in rather than God. Giving shifts our dependence off our money and onto God. But it does depend how we give. Giving in itself isn't a discipline, it's a reaction. Percentage giving is a discipline. Percentage giving is about setting aside a percentage of your income and choosing to give it away. Now, Louise and I have set up a separate bank account to do this. We've set up a standing order that transfers about 10% of our income each month into this account. That's the percentage we've landed on. You need to work out what works for you. From this giving account, we give to FBC and to support a couple of other organisations as well. It's a discipline, but it's something that has blessed us greatly over the years. It's something that I can't imagine not doing. We've experienced God's faithfulness to us in this. He knows what we need, and he has never, ever let us down. I'm constantly blown away by how God watches over us, how he provides for us. We could choose to stop giving that money and put it somewhere else to help fund Leah through uni, and it would make a huge difference. But I'm not going to do that because I don't want my confidence to be in what I earn. I want it to be in God. And I'm almost thankful that I don't have the income that means I could easily fund Leah through uni. It's so much easier to trust God with something that's beyond our control. I don't have a choice. Now, this is true in all aspects of life. What happens when something happens that's beyond your control? What do you do when you arrive in a situation that you can't fix, that you can't think or plan or buy your way out of? Well, you turn to God. You pray. Perhaps you even start bargaining with God. God, if you get me out of this, I promise I will. Well, you can fill in the blanks. We do this because it's easier to do when we can't do anything else. We're all out of options. And I wonder if God thinks to himself, why don't you do this all the time? Why isn't your first response to come to me, to trust me, to put your confidence in me? I know what you need and I won't let you down. Private disciplines helps us to do this. It helps us build in things that help us focus on him. It helps us to take responsibility for our faith. It helps us put our trust in him. Private disciplines is all about pre-deciding. It's about taking that step, making that decision to do it, even when you don't want to. Now, I'm going to spend this time with God. I'm going to go to bed early so I can get up and give him the best bit of my day. I'm going to put it in my diary. I'm going to make it a priority. And I'm going to give this percentage of my income, which means I'm not going to spend it on this or that. I'm choosing to put my trust in God. I'm choosing to put my confidence in God. Private disciplines are a key way in which we take responsibility for our faith and in which we grow in our faith. It helps us follow Jesus. It helps us to encounter him and grow in our relationship with him. Now, there's one thing that really helps me with my private disciplines: intentional community. Listening to what other people do helps me. It gives me ideas of the things that I can try. But it also gives me accountability. I can share with the people closest to me what I'm committing to do and ask them to check up on me. That encourages me and it spurs me on to keep going, even when I don't want to. So what are the things you know you need to do in order to help your faith grow? What are the things you know you ought to do that will help you put your confidence and your trust in God rather than in yourself? That's a private discipline. It starts out as an ought, but quickly becomes a want. It starts out as something you endure, but quickly becomes something you enjoy and couldn't imagine life without.